Welcome back to another review. I know I haven't done many of these in a while. Matter of fact, this is my first one of the season. This is a result of a show not coming into fruition based on someone being sick this morning. So I am recording this late at night to try and get this in because I took notes on the games and I watched the games for the most part, tried to, but then again, I was in Washington, Baltimore, the DMV area because I went to the Ravens-Rams game and then I went to the Commanders Bears game the next day. And so therefore it was hard to catch on to what was occurring around the NFL, but I was able to go back and watch some things and take notes, and I can kind of go into in depth on how I perceive on what's going on with all these teams and everything surrounding the league as a whole. We truly are in a time right now where it is very difficult to really capture what team is on top. There is no dominant team that really has set themselves apart from the rest of the pack. You know, there has been teams that are on fire as of right now, but there's also teams that are, for some reason, dismantling when they had already been cooking or just winning games in general that maybe they shouldn't have been winning, but they were beating everybody, so it wasn't really that big of an issue. And now with them losing, it's becoming a big of an issue. So we're going to get into each game for the most part. I'm kind of going to go around each game of the week and try and give as much detail as I can, but there's some games that are of little importance, so I'm not going to go too far deep for those games. But a game that truly, I say to you, is hard to really, use as a precursor for what we're going to expect to see in the coming weeks. It really was another game where it's hard to really tell who the better team is. And that is the Cowboys-Panthers game. The Panthers end up coming home with the dub. And they, for some reason, have been very exceptional. Sorry, it's redundant. They have been exceptional at home for whatever reason. Their defense has, again, looked how we expected, and nothing has really changed from the preseason expectations. But their offense has been quite literally a roller coaster, and it's just for some reason they turn up when they're at home. But we're going to start with the Cowboys, who, they really should have won this game with how their offense has been playing. Both defenses, bottom of the league, coming to this game. Clearly, we were expecting somewhat of a shootout. It wasn't a crazy affair here of points, but it was awesome to watch George Pickens play another game where Lamb is not present, because he now has already eclipsed 500 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns so far this season, which no other player has done. No other player has even reached that mark with only 5 touchdowns. And matter of fact, this is the George Pickens' first time in his career where he has reached 6 touchdowns. So it really speaks to the fact that this offensive system is truly something to marvel at. With every year when they keep changing who's running the plays, who's managing the plays, it doesn't matter. This team always seems to find offensive firepower, even if their run game is lacking. Other parts of the offense pick it up, and right now their running game is, I wouldn't say phenomenal, but it's up there. It's very good. Javonte Williams, coming off the torn ACL, we thought maybe he might be stymied by that and take a step back, but truly, I say to you, he has been all what I thought he could be coming out of Denver before that injury. And it's great to see. And it's great for Cowboys because, their run game was not there the last couple of years with Tony Pollard and Rico Dowdle. So for that to now become something that, they're more accustomed to with prime Zeke and other names right now, I just really don't understand why their defense is playing this poor. It just doesn't really all add up to me. Clearly, people have been saying, "Oh, well, Parsons, was he really that much of an impact if, in Green Bay he's not, getting this production that we really expected out of him off the get-go heading into Green Bay." But people don't understand that Parsons really is actually playing at a top elite level right now. He's just getting held every play, and he also is getting so many pressures. He's top 4 in pressures. If you watch the tape, it's clear he's making an impact. Dallas definitely wishes they still had him, because if they did, it would make their defense it would make them a little bit under average still, and that in itself would allow them to be thriving right now, and they could be leading the division. There's a few games they could have easily won had they actually just had a below average defense. We're not even talking average defense, just a below average defense. Right now, they're the worst defense in the NFL, right next to the Ravens. So for them to struggle immensely is no surprise, but it really is what people are calling the 2024 Bengals. And unfortunately for them, it's going to ruin a lot of things. It's going to ruin the Dak Prescott MVP race. It's going to ruin their own playoff race. It's going to ruin the brand. It's going to ruin everything. It's continually adding to what we know about the Cowboys, and that they're a train wreck. And this game in itself was a train wreck. So, again, every week it seems like we think we know what the Cowboys are. We don't think we know what the Cowboys are, but then we realize, oh, this is what they are. They're a train wreck, and you're never going to be able to understand what they are, because they're all over the place every damn week. So, and this week was an embodiment of that. So, obviously, the front office, it's something that for the Cowboys, has always just been their kryptonite, is their own front office, and which starts with Jerry. And it just seems like they can't escape this train wreck until Jerry Jones is no longer the Cowboys owner. And we're just going to have to really just sum it up at that. And that just sucks for a franchise to be gatekept like that by their own ownership. But there's a few franchises that are very similar to that in the aspect that they just cannot do anything top to bottom, no matter who is playing for the team, no matter who is coaching. It's just from the top, it's always going to be that way. But in other positive notes, especially for the Panthers, Tet really showing why he was picked first overall. I liked on the broadcast when I was watching back, Greg Olsen talked about how I already gave it up. He talked about how Tet really can be compared to a former 2010s legend wide receiver in A.J. Green for the Bengals. He just has those hands that A.J. Green had. He had his speed, not super fast, but fast enough to make a difference. And he has that length and just overall size, not crazy size, but enough to where, again, he can make that impact on a lot of DBs. And he's really progressing in his route running. It's becoming more fluid, and it's going more into shape, in which we thought, he really could get better at coming out of college. We just were wondering if it was going to develop, and it's already seeming to develop for him. He gets 2 touchdowns. He has a day, and it's awesome to see. Good for Carolina, especially their future. A lot of things hang in the balance for them in terms of future. This one right here, I think, can actually be finally a cornerstone for them to have on offense, which it seems like hasn't been like that since Christian McCaffrey departure. Another thing I'll say, and I already mentioned him with a negative in terms of what was occurring with the Cowboys team last year, but now here's a positive for this exact player who couldn't get it done on America's team, but now can get it done on America's least known team in the Panthers, and that's Rico Dowdle, who here again has another insane game, taking advantage of the fact that Chuba has not been playing, and taking advantage of the fact that also there is no real third back on this team outside of Chuba and Rico, with Jonathan Brooks obviously tearing his ACL last year. And it's good to see him really succeed whenever he's this bell cow back, because he wasn't able to do it in Dallas, which is weird because Dallas, again, like I told you, is allowing Javonte Williams to kind of thrive. So it really, this is what I mean by players. It's not the progression is never linear. It's a weird sport. So Rico clearly has developed in certain capacities that has allowed his game to go to another level that a lot of us didn't expect could happen. So he's really been a trustworthy option while Chuba has been out. Now we're going to go to the Ravens-Ram game, which the game I went to. This game was a hard watch. I wouldn't say it was the most boring game this week, but truly, truly, I say to you, and that might be my phrase, because, man, Harbaugh, his time could be coming to an end at some point here. Whether it's next offseason or this offseason, it's going to happen. It's been a good long run. I just can't see a world where he is still the Ravens head coach, not heading out of Lamar's prime, but like heading towards the latter years of his prime. I can't see it where they don't try somebody else to try and capture that electricity in a bottle that they seem to have not been able to capture in Lamar's prime. We're just going to start off with a few things that really kind of grinded my gears here. There was one instance in which they were in the red zone. They were 2nd and 1, I believe, and it was within the 10-yard line. All they have to do, and I believe this is actually while Henry was kind of cooking. I don't think kind of. I think he was like really genuinely cooking, and they decide to do tush pushes with their tight end, Mark Andrews, which, by the way, again, a lot of teams have tried tush pushes. Other than the Eagles, it has not worked for any of those teams. I don't know why all of a sudden teams think they can just do it randomly, spur of the moment. I just don't understand it because it never really truly works for them. But here, John Harbaugh tries it with his tight end. Yeah, I don't clearly understand any of the and it doesn't work the first time. Whatever, you try something, you're messing around again. Without Lamar, it's like it's hard to take these games too serious because you can't really go back and look and see, well, what were we good at? Because again, Lamar takes this team to another level, and that's what they're hoping he will do once he comes back after their bye against Chicago. But again, this is just like, why don't you just run the ball with Henry? He is your hammer. He is not a decoy. Use him like he's your hammer. This is why I just cannot stand Ravens football, because it just genuinely never makes sense to me. Because it's like you have these players you can make an impact with time and time again, but then you pull them away. Like, I don't understand why when they're nearing the red zone on their first drive, they decide to take Derrick Henry out, who already had like 50 yards on the first drive. Why are you taking him out and putting Justice Hill in there? I understand you want to have Justice Hill on certain passing downs and certain protections, but then again, it's like, why not just keep running the ball with Harbaugh? With Henry. It just doesn't make sense to me. And this happens, and when this happens, they then have to kick a field goal, and then that's their only points of the game. Multiple times they could have easily scored touchdowns in the red zone, not having to force Cooper Rush. And by the way, Cooper Rush is not a viable even backup in this league, I don't think, anymore. I think, you don't force Cooper Rush to pass, especially what you were watching in the game. He's does not really complement this offense at all, which really speaks to, and we'll get to a little bit later, but Huntley should have went in at some point during the game, not the end of the game, 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Really shouldn't have been that case. But, they were forcing Huntley to throw as well at the end. Obviously, they were down 17-3. But it's just like, why deviate from your script that was working well? Sorry, not script, your game plan. Their script was working well in terms of just running the ball and dialing it in on this Rams defense, who could not stop the run to start at all. And they just deviate from it. It made no sense. Why deviate from that game plan that was truly working to begin with? And they didn't make the right adjustments coming out of the second half. And then this ball security issue. Why is it becoming an issue every week that players on this team, they haven't had crazy conditions to warrant it either. All these players, and Zay Flowers was the nail in the coffin for this particular game. He fumbles twice, and one was very costly. And it just really speaks volumes on the coaching. Truly it does. And even Harbaugh comes out after and says, I plan to play both quarterbacks. It's like, well, you waited till 5 minutes left in the game, and there was no reason why you shouldn't have just been like, all right, I'm going to put Tyler Huntley in there. Or why you didn't put Tyler Huntley to start the second half. Cooper Rush wasn't showing you anything other than handing the ball off, which, by the way, he should have done more of, which we figured out later. It's just this old school Harbaugh football works in these type of games, because guess what? The Ravens had way more time of possession than the Rams did. That is what you want in a game where you don't have your starting quarterback, in a game where you have a backup quarterback that you cannot trust to throw the ball. That is exactly what you want. Limit the time the other team has the ball, especially when your D has not been playing that well. And it tires the other D. The Ravens D played way better because they had less time of possession for the Rams. That's why the Ravens D played way better. And it just doesn't make sense to me. There's just so many times, game management wise, where Harbaugh just strays away from what's working, and it's almost like he's hurting his own team. And then just certain coaching things, calling timeouts when it's a real problem. And now they have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. They now have to win basically the next 5 games and hope that the Steelers fall off, because I don't see them capturing a wild card position at all. Rams, however, Puka now is day-to-day, but, it really does scare me to kind of have the thought that this Rams offense can kind of be stymied without Puka. It really does scare me. If Puka is not playable come playoff time, what is going to happen to this offense? It looks like it might just go downhill. And that's not to say that they won't have him, and I'm not, praying on that being the case, but it just really shows that, there's a lot to kind of hold against this offense in terms, they were struggling mightily in the red zone, and Puka was even making it known to his own team that it was this should not be happening. This is not what they're known for. They're usually known for executing in the red zone better than a lot of other teams, and for them, it just was not the case here in this week, and they made a bad defense look fairly good. Stafford, for me, he's very polarizing. He leads the league in passing, leads the league in big-time throws, tied for second in passing touchdowns, 6th in passer rating. His O-line has been playing rough, but and that's really, that all showcases, he's an elite quarterback, but he just is just missing some throws we're just not accustomed to seeing. And this idea that having no mobility being not really a big of an issue in today's league is truly not a idea that should be favored, because it's really becoming a league where you have to have mobility and be able to move out of the pocket, climb the pocket, make the right moves, and when you need to, go for the first down with your legs. And that's not happening from Stafford. That's not happening from Rodgers. That's not happening from Goff. And it truly shows that even in the biggest of moments, and I know there wasn't really big moments here in this game, but in big moments, it's going to be a problem. And that's what really scares me if I'm a Rams fan in terms of Matthew Stafford's play. Can a quarterback of that stature, in terms of not having mobility, take a team to the promised land? And I know they won the Super Bowl a couple years back with this Stafford, but he's 4 years older is not. It's not like he's grown, speed and his legs are fresher than ever before. That's not the case. So it really does kind of scare me in terms of big moments, because the league has changed since then. I know not crazy changes, since the crazy change has been more so since the year before that. But then again, this can be scary. They really struggled in the red zone, and that kind of was not something we're accustomed to. And the question really lies in this game to what should we take from this game? Was the Ravens defense just stepping up, or was Stafford struggling due to a lack of possession time and his inability to get in a rhythm with that? I think this Rams team, I'm not sure, I didn't do the research on this, but I'm pretty sure this Rams team is more used to having a great sum of time of possession. So down the road, that's going to be something that they have to, work on. And obviously that really came down to the Rams being able to play better run defense, which they have not. So truly not a really game that we can sit there and say, okay, I really understood who these two teams are from this game. But some of it was, there is some weaknesses from both teams that you can pull from it and be like, well, this actually might be a problem down the road. Colts Cardinals, really not going to speak too much about the Cardinals. They are a dumpster fire right now, and it just seems like every week there is a new issue, and some of the issues that we've already known that sometimes fade away and we think, oh, maybe it's getting better, they return in fashion every other week, and it's really sucks to see because, you know, I'm a big MHAJ fan, and I would like to see him thrive in this type of offense, and it just seems like it just will not work. Can he be the future for Arizona? Yes. Is he going to be the future for Arizona with Kyler Murray as his quarterback? I do not believe so. I truly think Kyler Murray gets traded before the deadline. Probably not. Probably won't, but I truly think he should. Not because he's a bad quarterback, not because I think Arizona is going to get a crazy amount from him, you know, a crazy sum of comp for him. I think it's just time to move on. You know, not everybody really works out in everywhere. And that really brings us to our next topic, which is Daniel Jones. Indiana Jones is finally getting his clean slate in Indy, and truly the Giants were never going to work for him, so I'm glad to see that he gets a new fresh start somewhere else with a different type of coordinator who is going to call more plays that really work for Daniel Jones, and I'll explain why in a second. But in New York, he was always under pressure. There was a revolving door of offensive line and even weapons. I mean, think about Andrew Thomas, who was the only surefire player that he played behind. Never could stay on the field. Still can't. And so this year, it now brings us to this year with Colts O-line, who is completely different from the Giants O-line of past years, because they've only allowed 5 sacks in the last 6 games. A night and day difference. He had Saquon in his prime, which, again, that led to their 2022 playoff run, per se. Their 22 season run where they made the playoffs and beat this Vikings team that was perceived as going to be, you know, somewhat of a problem for teams, and they just dismantled them. Obviously, they don't do so much against the Eagles the next week, but that really showcased that Daniel Jones can thrive fortuitously when he has a running back of that caliber, and Jonathan Taylor has been playing very similar to how Saquon played in that 2022 campaign. It just adds that balance for him, that, you know, the balance of the run game and the balance of the pass game that he needs for it to work. And it truly showed when he just didn't have it last year. The run game just truly wasn't there. And of course, whenever he's starting to fade away and the offense isn't working out, you know, Tyrone Tracy kind of takes the lead. But, you know, it has not been great for the Giants until as of late with Scadaboo with their run game. So he's now benefiting from this Shane Steichen system, and I'll explain why. It's very heavy on play action, bootlegs, pre-snap motion, stuff that's going to force a quicker release from Daniel Jones and not make him have to make these outlandish decisions that he would have had to make in a Brian Daboll offense, and genuinely not have to overthink as much. I mean, you can clearly see that in this offense, he's developed as a pocket passer tenfold. His pocket movement and poise is way different from what we saw in New York. He panicked way too much in New York, and now it feels like he's getting pressured still. But again, 5 sacks. That is not just an O-line stat as much as we like to think it is. It's also a quarterback stat, because there can be times where quarterbacks are getting pressured heavily, but the sacks are still low. And Daniel Jones is really showcasing that he's not panicking like a lot of younger quarterbacks do, and he's kind of growing out of that. And I believe Minnesota really helped him with that. Maybe not just specifically that, but something. Obviously, it's just, Kevin O'Connell is a QB whisperer, whether you like it or not, and whether you think J.J. McCarthy is not going to work out. I think that him being able to sit there for even a couple of games allowed him to see the game way completely different. And he even said that whenever they were asking him about it as well, the reporters. Now, this kind of takes us back to, okay, well, with Daniel Jones succeeding now, what now happens to the guy that they spent a first-round pick on just 2 years prior? And what I say to that, he never really fit this Shane Steichen system, and it clearly showed, and Shane never really saw it himself. I really do believe this experiment is dead, but I don't think his career is not. It's the same thing where I just don't think the Cardinals should move forward with Kyler Murray, at least into the next season, unless he flips something around miraculously. Sorry. To me, it was never a fit. But I think he can go somewhere else and make a difference somewhere else. I truly do believe he has potential to do that. But there was a lot of moments last season where it was very... He was swimming in precarious waters, may I say. That it just... You were showcasing maybe you aren't franchise worthy, and maybe you just be a career backup. The lack of experience showed throughout the experiment, and maybe over time he will marinate into a better quarterback. But he needs to go somewhere else. Possibly somewhere like Green Bay, possibly somewhere like San Francisco, Minnesota, where he can just sit there, not start, and just learn. And he could become something that we thought he could become, especially the Colts thought he could become, taking him with the fourth overall pick back in the 2023 draft. We're going to head to the Seahawks and Jaguars game. Not really much to say, really, about this game. I believe the Jaguars defense actually played solid situational football. They were holding Seattle on third downs pretty well. I think it was 1 for 12. But again, with a team like this, very young, and a new coaching, the penalties really killed them. And that may become, again, a precursor, a precedent, if you may, for what may be to come for them come playoff time, because they will be in the mix for that. Not sure if they're going to take the division. Probably not. Colts look like a genuine, solid contender. And I don't believe they're just going to randomly fade out. So that being said, with them going to probably be going for the wild card, penalties can kill all their momentum and become a problem down the road. And so something else that may even cause that, something else that may create an issue down the road is their O-line was just overmatched by the Seahawks D front, and it made it very difficult for the the Jaguars to get in any type of rhythm. It's just Jacksonville continues to experiment with Travis Hunter on defense. You know, they're trying to move him around and everything. With Tyson Campbell now being gone and with Greg Newsome coming in, they're moving him around a lot. But I think they could really take a step forward if they could figure out how to really utilize him on offense. Some people, for some reason, saying that he should just play defensive snaps more. And because he really did play very well up against the receivers, top receivers for the Seahawks in that game. But I really do think this team can make a step forward. Again, well, if Trevor Lawrence is playing more consistently, but also if Travis Hunter takes a step up, and that will come with the Jaguars, again, trying things out with him on offense. But that in itself could negate the issues that I spoke prior and actually lead to their success if they can fix something like that, because their offense could become way more dynamic than it is now. On the flip side, I think the Seahawks have found something very special with the Darnold addition, and I think everybody was clowning, not everybody, but most people were clowning on the Seahawks for basically switching the two quarterbacks of the same caliber for each other. A lot of people viewed them as very similar, but now it is coming as it comes into fruition, with hindsight being 2020. Sam Darnold clearly was the better choice there, and Seahawks fans should be happy that they made it. He has only shown that what happened last year was not a fluke, and he is here with a vengeance to make himself known as being a top quarterback in the league. And so, with that being said, Kubiak, JSN, Clint Kubiak. Oh my gosh. Can you tell it's 2 a.m.? JSN, all three of those guys, it's become a clear trifecta that in synergy works so well. They're clicking on so many levels, and it's really fun to watch. JSN is just shattering franchise rookie records, and he's looking like he's going to be that long-term cornerstone wide receiver that they wanted him to be when they drafted him as high as they did a couple years ago. And that really starts with how Darnold's playing, too. Darnold has unlocked JSN, essentially. I know JSN was playing pretty well last year, but I think he's now catapulting himself into top wide receiver talks because he now has a quarterback that can really threaten defenses down the field that I believe Geno Smith was not able to do in his tenure with the Hawks. I mean, this Seahawks team truly is becoming a dark horse contender in the league, and I think truly people are still underrating their potential here. I think people think, oh, well, they're solid, they're above average, they're gonna beat the teams they should beat, but whenever time comes to play against the big dogs, they're going to kind of cower away, and I truly don't think that's the case with this Seahawks team in particular. I think their defense has been playing pretty well with Mike McDonald. Have truly seen some things improve from his first year with the Hawks, and I think this could be the year where they actually do some damage in the playoffs. There's not really much to me that says they cannot do that. I know a lot of people think they can't, but I think this is a different Seahawks team we're looking at. Going into the next game, this was the Browns-Steelers. Let's start with the revolving door that is the Cleveland Browns quarterback position. Dylan Gabriel, to me, he's a little limited. He should not be passing 52 yards a game. That in itself is a problem, but we shouldn't expect a rookie quarterback to perform well when they're having to do that. That's putting too much pressure on him. He's going to make mistakes when you're forcing a quarterback with that little experience to throw a ball 52 times in a game. That just should not be happening. Even for a rookie, some misses are okay, but in this instance here, there was just misses that, he's putting his own players in jeopardy with his passes. It's just some of these misses you just should not be making at any level in the NFL, let alone being a rookie. Even when you are a rookie, you should not be making those mistakes. I don't want to say Shedeur will come sooner than we really think, but there will be a time where he gets inserted into a game. I do believe that. Just to kind of see where we're at with things. Because there was a lot of times where you just see, Gabriel cannot do that. Gabriel cannot. He's just not able. And again, are you really going to keep starting a quarterback that is not able to push the ball down the field? I don't believe so. So if he cannot showcase that in the next few games, don't be surprised if Shedeur does get inserted in some way. So I think, obviously there's a lot of pressure in playing as a Browns quarterback when your Browns receivers cannot even get any type of separation and your O-line is truly playing some of the poorest football from any unit across the league. You can't really blame them on that. I don't think some of these even elite quarterbacks would play very well behind or in this offense. So, and again, it just speaks to what has been really a underlying struggle, and that is the front office of this organization. And I don't want to say underlying, because the Browns are always known to screw these things up, and that's why they always are the Browns. They just never can get past their own mistakes. But at the same time, it's like we just sit there and just throw it under the rug, where Andrew Berry, the owners, they don't make the right choices ever. And something will have to change at some point, and I think Stefanski probably is gone. But again, whatever team gets Stefanski is getting a good coach, truly. For the Steelers, again, another weird team where it's, he's very similar to Stafford. He's obviously lost his step, but I think he knows that, and I think he understands that, so he's managing the game very well with that in mind. That being said, the Steelers still need to get their tight ends involved as much as possible. They're struggling to do that. This offense that they are employing every week, is only going to work so long and will become stale if they don't make changes. But I believe they can. I do believe they have some of the players to do so. That being said, as well, I do believe they should go for a second piece come the deadline, whether that be another wide receiver or even trading away a tight end to get another tight end. Something they can, they have all these tight ends, but they're not using them. They're not using them correctly, and it's weird because what we've known Arthur Smith for in the past is to circulate the offense through the tight ends in the intermediate game, and it's just like, where is that? But it's, their defense is very much so picking up back to what we're used to, and I do believe Arthur Smith is, still, really marinating into this offense more and more, and I think their offense is still way more competent than it has been in years. But again, there's still things that need to be changed going forward, because their schedule is going to get harder, and if they can't put points up on the board, these teams will dismantle them, and we'll just have another year where the Steelers look decent to start, and then they fall off towards the end, and then can't recapture that going into the playoffs, and ultimately just fall on their faces, flat on their faces. Dolphins, Chargers. We have to start with the post-game conference where Tua is calling out his own players. It just, to me, was very haphazard for him to just randomly do that. Why can you not take accountability for your own mistakes? That is what it really stems from. You are almost... Well, you aren't almost. You are pushing what people are seeing away from you, because you are making all these mistakes, and you, again, time after time, week after week, times where he needs to come up big, he is making big mistakes, and it's killing them, and he's not owning up to it. I want to go to a game that we'll be talking about here shortly. Jane Daniels, what did he say about the fumble? He said, "That's on me. There's no way. There's no blaming on the weather. There's no nothing. That's only strictly on me." Which other quarterbacks could have blamed it on the weather. Other quarterbacks could have said, "It's not my fault. It just happened. Whatever." The run, they could just somehow find some excuse, but that's not what Daniels did. But here, to me, that's what Tua does here. Now, to the benefit of his doubt, though, he could be pointing to himself here when he says the things about the players when he says leaders need to step up in order to not allow these players to not show up, to show up tardy and late. He could be pointing himself when he says that and just saying it in an indirect way. But to me, I don't believe he's doing that here. And I think if he really was, he would do it directly to showcase his accountability, because it's really not a good PR look when you clearly made a big mistake in that game that you were just played, and you come on the mic and start complaining about other players not doing their thing. Is he probably completely true about that? Yeah. Is there a culture problem in Miami? Yeah, definitely. There has been for almost for years. I mean, it's the city, Miami. Don't get me wrong. I get it. I understand why there'd be culture problems in there. But this is not something you address post-game after you just didn't play really that well. Even then so. Just because you play well doesn't mean you just, I played well, but, the D line, they just couldn't stop the run at all. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't. There's only so much I can do. That's essentially what he's saying, but he didn't even play good enough to really even have that take. It's just, to me, is just a random time. That's something you bring up during the week, when you're playing good, even maybe when you're playing good, but really should be something you bring up preseason, something you bring up not when you're losing game after game, because when in the way that you're involved. It's just, this is why pundits, media pundits, are just calling the Dolphins breakdancers soft. It's because players there don't treat it like a profession. And Tua is embodying that and exemplifying that in his words by calling out other players that are also not treating it like a profession. You're not treating it like a profession because you're not being accountable. You're the quarterback. You're getting paid all this money. You need to be accountable and lead them. It does not, I don't see an ounce of leadership when I just see these type of things. Chargers are going to get healthier. And this game, to me, did not show what they can become again. This game was another shell of themselves game. What are we doing? Where did we go? Why are we letting these injuries are now becoming our kryptonite, our stab in the heart, because it's just like they are just how many excuses are we going to give? They haven't overcome injuries. They haven't overcome anything. It's not like you're the Bucks and you're playing with wide receiver 4, 5, 6. Oh, wait. The Bucks? Oh, they weren't struggling when they had that. So it's just, to me, we got to stop creating excuses for this team. But when they get healthier, they might go back to full strength. And, we'll give them that. But, these last few weeks, I would not be confident in your team if I am a Chargers fan. Neither team, to me, really deserve this win here. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the Saints-Patriots game. If I can bring it up here. Let's start with this. Spencer Rattler is overhated, okay? When I watch him play, he's developing under pressure, very similar to Indiana Jones, similar to Daniel Jones. He's making those quick decisions. He's staying more aggressive downfield, which a lot of young quarterbacks struggle with. And he's being more pressured than any other quarterback. And he's avoiding sacks. That is what we said was working for Daniel Jones and what he was developing. And we're giving him credit for it. But Spencer Rattler is in a way more adverse situation. And he is, I wouldn't say thriving like Daniel Jones, but he is playing decent ball in a dumpster fire. So I'm going to bring up this quote from Greg Rosenthal, who has the Around the NFL, or was a part of the Around the NFL, is now has his own podcast. I would go check it out. It's a great listen. And he does very similar to what I'm doing right now. If Spencer Rattler was taken in the first round, or even the second round, we would think of him as a franchise quarterback with how he's been playing. It really speaks volumes to the idea that because his talents, because his skill sets were viewed as, his ceiling is very, very low. He's got a decently high floor. He can't really develop. He can't really grow. we now just say, oh, he's playing decent. That's just because, this is his ceiling. This is his floor. He's reached it. He can't get any better than this. But to me, what I've seen from him is he has room for growth. He can get better. And that's why it's like, well, first round picks, second round picks, they're seen as, oh, this guy, he might not be absolutely insane. He might not be absolutely, immediately put him in the game and he's going to just tear apart the stat sheet, be super productive. He might be raw, but he's going to become a great player. And that you don't see with a 5th round pick. So that's why when we watch Spencer Rattler, we're like, oh, well, he was a 5th round pick. He can't really go up from here. It's when you are drafted that low, you then, until you officially break out, you are then set at this own ceiling by people, by media, by the fans, that you can't overcome it unless you actually do. So people have no hope in someone like Spencer Rattler when you should, because he has gotten better, especially since last year. But again, it's hard to really, sit there and look at the stat sheet and look at all this other stuff when their defense is not helping him out, when other aspects of the team is not helping him out. They just did nothing to address their D. They did nothing to address a lot of other things in the offseason. And again, they're still struggling with the cap, and that's its own thing. But to me, it's like, if you got things around Spencer Rattler, I think he'd actually be playing really good football right now. It's just their defense has poor tackling. They're allowing huge runs. Giants game to me was very fluky. I know they kind of shut down the Giants, and again, Giants were coming into themselves before that Eagles game. Two passing touchdowns have been allowed every week by opposing teams. It's just like, we understood that this was going to be the case going into the season. But with Spencer Rattler, there's just nothing there for him to work. And with this zone-heavy defense not working at all for them, they should genuinely double dip in defense, maybe get another first-round pick in the draft. Try and I don't really understand this draft class yet. And maybe the better play is to not do that. And better play is it's going to be more deeper class, less top heavy, more deeper, which is kind of what I'm thinking it's going to be, but I'm not very sure yet. I haven't really done my my college scouting or what per se yet. But I think they should do something on the defense. Please do something. Start anew. You need to hit a reset. And I truly believe, as of right now, Spencer Rattler is your quarterback to go with. Not Tyler Shuck, not someone in this draft. I think Rattler has showcased to this team that he is worthy of being their starter moving forward. Patriots, on the other hand, Drake May, is he the best quarterback in the 2024 class? He might be. He genuinely might be. And time will tell if that will be the case, but he has been playing on fire under this Josh McDaniels offense. Josh McDaniels did wonders for Mac Jones when he was with the Patriots. Now he's here doing it again, and we've seen what Mac Jones is also doing with Kyle Shanahan. It's awesome to see what I thought was true, and that was that he was a great OC, should not coach, shouldn't touch it. But with Drake May, it's like he's able to just thrive in the intermediate game with what McDaniels has got going on, and it's just crazy. No turnover-worthy plays past 20 yards. It's his bread and butter. That for a rookie, sorry, not a rookie, for a second-year player is insane, and it just really shows you why Patriots fans should be excited. That stat alone. But also, 5 weeks straight with 100 passer rating or better. Best in the league against man coverage. He's gashing zone-heavy defenses, especially the Saints zone-heavy defense that they just played in this game. Patriots are not a team to mess with right now with Drake May under center. And it's good to see what they have done against some decent teams here in the start of the season, especially the Bills. Now, I know the Bills, it's a divisional game. A lot of those can go certain ways just based on certain things. But, man, I want to see them play another contender, and they don't really do it, but until week 10, where they're playing Tampa, which will be very exciting, and I hope to see them really put up a good fight against them because I think they can do that. Although Tampa is like the league favorite the media favorite for being the best team in the league, they did struggle against this Eagles team that we don't even know what they are. So, there's a lot of parity in the NFL right now, and that's what I really led this episode with to begin with. So, Patriots, man, if you can go toe-to-toe with a contender, I think they can really actually get in the playoffs and do some bit of a damage to start. And again, their team very similar to me than the Seahawks if they can keep things afloat. Now we go to the Titans Raiders, and this is another game where I'm just gonna leave it real brief. But we have to talk about the Brian Callahan fire that happened the other day. I'm very ambivalent about Brian Callahan. There's things that tell me, he's a QB whisperer. He's been in systems that have worked before. This is his first time coaching. He's really a victim of circumstance and victim of these owners being impatient, with rebuilding. But to me, there's a lot of things where it's just he's not perfect. There was a lot of rough game managing moments last year and even in the beginning of this year. But again, there's something internal with this league, and this kind of is outside of his control. But it's weird where it's like these teams that have this first overall pick go and get this coach beforehand, right? Before they get the first overall pick, which again, that's out of their control as well. But then they get the first overall pick, and it just... Oh my gosh, yawning's crazy. It just becomes a problem when all these coaches that get their number one overall pick quarterback, it's just not a good pairing. I feel like you have to get the coach after you grab the quarterback to pair with the quarterback. And to me, this pairing of Callahan and Cam Ward was just not a good pairing. And he even had to, relieve his duties before, not really on his own accord, okay? A lot of coaches do that to relieve some stress off of them and alleviate it so they can focus on coaching. But this right here was just him struggling with what he was given. And the Titans really should have, like a lot of teams have not been doing, shown patience here in this process. And, they never really reset and went fully in a rebuild. They fired their GM. They did other things, but they never really reset the team. A lot of teams are afraid to do that. They're afraid of not being somewhat competent, and then it leaves them in this ditch of being not even close to competent. Now all of a sudden, Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith are in the head coaching talks for this team, and that, to me, would not help them at all. But it's just weird to me. A lot of the things that are making the Titans are outside the changes that they make season to season. And they're blind to it. And this is another reason why it's like, okay, well, you really didn't give them enough time. Even if even if it wasn't awesome, the best thing to watch, you still didn't give them enough time. And again, there just should be this grace period of when a new coach gets a new quarterback, give him at least 2 to 3 years to work with this quarterback. They're just afraid. These front offices are afraid that this quarterback that they drafted super high is going to lose their development process by being exposed to these coaches that are perceived as bad. They're worried about it. And it's just weird because then they go on to a now perceived good coach, and it just doesn't, it's with that same quarterback, and it doesn't work out. And they don't just magically become this amazing quarterback that we thought they'd become coming out of college. And, it's why that's why these teams have number one overall. They have reasons for being there. And it just has to take the right individuals to really turn the tide in a franchise that is in the deep depths of the league. And usually throughout this episode, I've then jumped to positives for the winning team, but I really can't do that here with the Raiders. Geno Smith here, and like I told you with Sam Darnold, he's not on the same level as Darnold, and this pickup for the Raiders has been not what they wanted, and he is truly regressing, and don't be surprised again if he is not their starting quarterback heading into the offseason. He leads the league in combined sacks, interceptions, and fumbles, and for some reason, this man has been blaming his shortcomings on luck. And again, it's this idea of lack of accountability. Same idea. It's just his 10 interceptions. You really tell it's late? His 10 interceptions have been him just struggling to read a defense. Simple as that. Not you having bad luck. So again, here in this case, neither team really impressed me one bit, which was expected heading into it. On the other hand, I'm impressed with the entire thing that is going on in the Bucs franchise. Baker Mayfield, his story has truly been revolutionary for the entire league. He has showcased why you should never really give up on a quarterback that has just done good things for you when they're healthy. Why the Browns, and I've talked about this multiple times, and why did the Browns just randomly give up on him because he was playing through a torn labrum? To me, it is one of the most mind-boggling things I've ever seen if it wasn't the Browns. So it all makes sense in the end. And for him to go to Carolina, then get benched and become the backup, then get cut mid-season from one of the worst teams in the league, then go to the Rams and just have almost a renaissance. And he plays this amazing game, save his career, gets all this time, in the QB lovely environment that is with Sean McVay, and then goes to Tampa Bay and immediately catches fire and has only gotten better every season. How can you not love that story? And again, it humbled him. That experience humbled him, okay? That is what means the most to me in terms of the intangibles here for Baker. He was he still is a little overconfident, but then again, sometimes overconfidence does help you in the long run because you're not overthinking about, well, am I really not doing this right? Or, well, am I you're just going. You just go. You don't know what it's not adversity, but you don't know what failure is at that point. You just know to go. And Baker has, one, become closer to Christ. I mean, it's been evident in the way he speaks, his mannerisms, everything, the whole 9 yards. It just, to me, that's what he said. When he was humbled, he went to Christ and I don't mean to get super religious here, but I feel like it's necessary because it was imperative to his success, and Tampa Bay has been the place for him, and it's awesome to see, and it really shows some of these players just need to go to the right place. That's all they need. Darnold with Seahawks, Darnold with Minnesota, Baker with Bucks. And in this game, I know Mac Jones didn't play that well, but with San Francisco, Mac Jones with San Francisco has looked way 20 times a million better than he did in Jacksonville, than he did in his end days in New England. I just believe that he can have a chance to play somewhere else that gives him a system similar to, San Francisco that's QB friendly, and, he can just ball out. And so I just, again, going back to Baker, he makes this team the scariest team in football because he's playing clutch. He's playing how an elite quarterback would play in terms of playing big in the big moments. That 3rd and 14 was just tremendous. How many quarterbacks in the league are going to do that? I can't name many. I genuinely can't. I probably can only name 4 right there. 4 or 5. And the 5th one is not even playing all that well. To me, Baker has shown, with his charisma, all NFL quarterbacks wish they had something like that. They wish they had something like that because this team's energy pumps through him. And when that's the case with your quarterback, which when we're talking just logically and logistically, how a team pumps their energy through, they pump it through that position because that position is the most important position in the game of football. So for it to be your quarterback is tremendous, and it's why they are playing so well at such a high level. And now they're going to get Mike Evans. I know Mecca Ibuka is going to lose some time, and it's going to hurt his O'Roy stock. But when Baker's playing like this with, wide receiver 4 through 6, line injuries, like Bucky Irving wasn't playing, he doesn't need excuses. He's just going to play. Baker's just going to go out there and play, and he's going to leave his heart on the field. And if he loses, it's not going to identify him. He's not going to identify with that loss. He's going to move forward because he has already been at the lowest point, and now he knows just to keep going. It's his confidence is at an all-time high, and he doesn't know how to back. It doesn't know what discouragement is. He doesn't. Moving to the Bengals-Packers, the other 4 o'clock game, or the last 4 o'clock game. I don't want to say the Packers 2024. Sorry, I don't want to say the Packers are the 2024 Saints, but they have not played good football post that Thursday night football game against the Commanders. They have not played good football. For 60 minutes, they have not. It's weird though, because their defense is playing amazing. Their points per game are under 20. They're still missing a little bit of an inside presence from Devontae Wyatt. But at the same time, their rushing defense is top in the NFL. It's up there. It's at the very top. Parsons, like I said, is generating pressures. The production for this team might be low. They're not turning the ball over at near the rate they were turning it over last year. But they're keeping opposing offenses from scoring, and it truly is because they're playing very conservative. They're trying not to let any splashy plays happen, but then in their own right, they're not creating any splashy plays. They're not, they're not forcing turnovers. They're not getting huge, sack games. But it's working in its own right. But then again, if this team wants to be known as what we think they can be, they have to play more head over heels or not head over heels, but more aggressive. They just have to play more aggressive offensively and defensively. And I think this team can actually do something. Matthew Golden is progressing the way you want him to. He is probably going to, work his way into becoming the wide receiver 1. I'm really liking Romeo Doubs and how he's playing, and Watson might provide something for them when he comes back. But it's all going to really come down to how Love plays, because he is truly polarizing to me as well. He just cannot manage a game properly, and he's not going to do – his ceiling is not going to allow him to make a Superman play. He's not going to become Superman. He's not going to put the cape on. It's just not going to happen. But there's just times where I'm just questioning whether he can manage a game properly. He just plays solid, consistent football for the most part, but he just makes some questionable plays, and not sure if he can really, when the pressure is high, make the play that needs to be made, especially come playoff time. That interception early on in the game, that really speaks to what I'm speaking to right now. It just, why throw that in that coverage? Why not just throw the ball out? There was no need for it. It's just why. It's like you're going back to what has let you, think about the 49ers game, the game years ago, where the 49ers team ends up going to the Super Bowl. You just have to think about Jordan Love. We saw him do it in a playoff game against the Cowboys. But we haven't seen anything else after that. We haven't seen any other situations that would lead me to believe that he can become this elite quarterback that you can trust in heavy, gravitas type situations. But, we'll have to see if they can change something up. Try to speed it up here. Flacco, we'll just talk about the Bengals a little bit with Flacco. You might be able to reel off some wins here, and I'm glad Cincinnati brought somebody competent in to make the game somewhat competitive, because they could easily tank and just grab some elite prospect for their defense or for their O-line. But they're just gonna keep for the fans, for the integrity of the game, keep their team competent and try to have some good football being played. I'm not, Joe Flacco wasn't doing much with Cleveland, but again, Joe Flacco was being brought back to what I told you earlier. It was just no quarterback's going to thrive in that situation. Jerry Jeudy was able to do a lot of things last year, but he's not what he was doing last year. He's not even able to even come close to it. David Njoku has not been there for them. Their O-line has been probably the worst it's been in years. So again, Flacco, he's not like he's going to some, stacked, amazing offense, but he's still got Jamar Chase. He's got T. Higgins. I know he's not got no O-line, but he can do something here that can allow, and I think, and we'll get into the preview, I think he can possibly win this game for the Bengals here on tonight. If you're watching this, you're going to be watching this on Thursday. I think he could do it. I just don't know, what Bengals' plans are going to be heading into this offseason. Will they fire Zach Taylor? I think they might. They might go with something new. It just hasn't been working out for them. But, we'll have to see. Heading into the Sunday Night Football game, and then we'll wrap up with the Monday Night Football games and go into the preview, and I'm going to try and speed through this. We'll just start with the branch thing, the post-game whack, if you will. It was just really weird to me because early on in the game, Juju did something similar with a blindside block, and what I mean similar is just stirring up the heat in the kitchen. He had a blindside block that, again, wasn't called. The Chiefs didn't have any flags on them the entire game, and it was similar to the Vontaze Burfict avenge hit that he had for AB in that playoff game, or for the playoff game that Vontaze hit AB, and there were plenty of fouls that just were not called in that game, and to me that just shows why the frustrations were probably there for the Lions. I know, the reffing's weird. It's like one game, it's like they're just calling everything and the players can't even play the game. Another game, it's like now we're letting everything slide. So it was a weird game. We cannot deny that. You cannot deny that if you're a Chiefs fan. You cannot deny it if you're a Lions fan. It was a weird game. Should the Chiefs have won that game no matter what? Yes, they were going to win that game no matter what. It was just a weird game, and it's hard to really, take something from a game like that. But fair is fair. Chiefs should have won that game, and they did. And the Chiefs obviously have showed up big. They're turning things around, and now they have Rice coming back. And that is going to be huge for them. It's going to make their team more scary and versatile going down the road. I will bring up that UTEP study that showed that refs do favor the Chiefs. I think that is that's just based in some weird data that I really don't believe really has true validity to it. I don't think you can really data mine something like that, per se. Like, I think, how are you going to really capture that in comparison to other games that don't involve the Chiefs? But I really am not going to sit here and try and take a stance in all of this. I really don't. I'm not going to condemn it. I'm not going to condone it. There's no point for me to. It is all weird. It's just weird how there is a lot of coincidences, but at the same time, it's like there's a lot of times where people are just reaching, and because it's just this narrative that has been created at this point, and it now leads to a league where the Chiefs are just so heavily scrutinized for anything that they do. And so then you almost undermine what other teams have going on for them. And then that's why I feel like this UTEP study kind of does is it undermines what goes on in other games. And it only kind of just hyper focuses on what's going on with the Chiefs. Lions, their defense to me is weird. This DB room, again, injuries. It's hitting them, but again, they got it. Someone's got to step up for them. They just signed Kendall Fuller, by the way, a little tidbit, but it's like Dan even said like he'll play linebackers, whatever, like people if he doesn't matter. They'll do schemes where it don't matter. He's just making a point that it's like someone's got to step up. I don't care who it is. I don't care what position you play. We got to have people step up because I cannot continuously just hope that my entire team stays healthy every year. I need people to step up. Thankfully, the guy that came back from the injury that wasn't there is balling out and currently leading the DPOY odds. But it's just not enough for them. It's just not enough, and they need players to take steps up. In the play, even then, players before injuries were not even playing all too well. Tremendous, anyways. And you're just not gonna win a game when Goff and St. Brown are not connecting and they're not synergizing. Truly is not gonna happen. And when Brown dropped his first ball in like I don't even remember. It's like multiple weeks. Going into last year, he never drops ball. He never does. And for him to drop that one, it showed like that was the time where the Lions gave the game up. Now talk about weird games because this one was one of them. Can we talk about Bijan Robinson? I mean, he's entering the Opoy conversation, and he's now entering even MVP conversation in terms of, just people trying to throw a non-QB in there because, again, I said the QB, there's no QBs playing exceptional. There's a lot of QBs playing exceptional. I meant there's no QB that is really, just like there's no team that is driving away from the pack. There's no quarterback to me that is driving away from the pack. And that screams to me there should be a non-quarterback. If they are on pace to break things, they should be in consideration. Just saying. And to me, if Saquon would have broke 2,000 or whatever, he should have won. You know what I'm saying? He should have won MVP. If he would have broke the record, the rushing record, should have won it. I mean, we think about... And again, there's a lot of things like, well, if he didn't have the O-line, he would not be as valuable to the team. That's what things like that people will add to it. But again, this Falcons O-line isn't tremendous. I mean, they've been pretty good in the run for what I can remember, but Bijan has just been one of one, and his impact in the receiving game is going underappreciated. And it really showcases how versatile he is as a back, because that's kind of what we were expecting out of him, to be almost like a Christian McCaffrey, where it's his scrimmage yards is insane because they're using him in multiple different ways because he has the capability of doing so. So I really enjoy how they're using him in Atlanta, and he was able to take advantage of a Bills defense that has been playing just has been rough. I'm not gonna sit here and say the worst in the league, but there's just teams that have been running all over him. Running all over him, but metaphorically, just running all over them. He's on pace. Bijan is on pace to break Chris Johnson's scrimmage yards. Let that sink in, all right? I will jump to this. We have literally entered the Michael Penix roller coaster ride that is in Atlanta. And it's, again, like similar to Carolina. I just can't. There's no way of really evaluating it. I don't know what to say about it. 1 week he looks like he's their quarterback. 1 week he looks like he shouldn't be on an NFL field. So I don't know what to say about that. Again, it's one of those things we're just going to have to let it sit and go from there. And maybe we'll be able to actually truly evaluate him as a player going forward. James Cook seems to be more crucial for this offense than we thought, especially for their success. And when he has a game like he had, it seems like they can't do anything. Nothing opens up. And because they have lack of weapons, it then screams louder than it would in a game where James Cook is cooking. So it's funny because every year this happens where the Bills are in need of defensive play to step up and their weapons they need a weapon. Like they need somebody. And we go, oh, then they make the playoffs and then they get pretty far and then they lose. And then we go, oh, well, you know what? They made the playoffs. They did really well. Their regular season was really well. You know, it's not necessary for them to have all of that. You know, as long as they got Josh Allen, anything can be done. But it's like, at what point are they going to do something about it? It's this idea that we're fine. We're fine. Like, we are fine. No, you're not fine. You should have signed somebody on the defense. You should have made some, like it wasn't like, Joey Bosa was going to make an immediate impact. I mean, it was a good signing, but it's like, again, on the back end, why are you not doing anything there? To me, it's, again, all these teams that have been contenders for the last few years, Bengals, Ravens, Bills, they're all falling apart. And it's because they don't go the extra mile. I mean, the Ravens did when they signed Derrick Henry. I'll give them that. But they just don't go the extra mile to put themselves ahead of the Chiefs because they believe, we're fine. We're not losing because of that. We're not losing to the Chiefs because of that. These teams are just not, like, they're not doing anything. They just sit in complacency. And it really irritates me. It really does. And for me, that's what the problem is. And that's why these GMs, coaches of these former contending teams that right now, I know the Bills are still a contender. I understand that. But these last two losses have been what scares you as a Bills fan. And we've said that with every team that we thought was going to be a contender going into the season. They are showcasing what we're scared about of them. And they're not fixing it. And they don't fix it any offseason because they feel like they're fine. They feel like that's not why they're losing in the playoffs. That feels like why they're not losing to Patrick Mahomes. That's why. And so they don't do anything about it. Sorry, I went on like a little rant, but it had to be done because this is like, why are these teams staying complacent when they're on the edge towards glory? I don't understand it. Going to the final game of our Week 6 action, and this is another game I went to. This was the last second venture, but Jane Daniels, like I said earlier, he took accountability for this loss. The turnovers were really rough. They really killed them. That's really the reason they lost this game. This game was very close. Neither team really played exceptional ball here, but, you know, I was really impressed with how Caleb Williams handled himself in that game. He easily also could have done what he's done in the past, and that is make terrible decisions whenever he needs to make the right one. That's pretty Captain Obvious. That's a very Mike McDaniel quote of me. No, he makes terrible decisions in the big spots, and that to me was something where I was like, okay, he stayed poised in this game, stayed disciplined to the very end. It wasn't pretty, but he did what he needed to do, and they went down the field. But again, the turnovers definitely allowed him to, it kind of alleviated that stress off of him. But again, he's not going to be loved by a PFF after a game like this. But if you really just watch the film and you were and I was at the game, I felt like Williams played a decent game and it was good game management. And that's all you really need out of him with this team. And I know Caleb Williams, first overall pick, that's not what you want long term, and I get that. But for this team right now, how he played is all they need. That's all they need from him. Jake Moody is the funniest story too. The fact that he's able to, re-energize his career after that, after that 49er stint is awesome. He does it in terrible conditions, by the way. I hated those conditions for football. But it was, I say that when I say that, I mean it's perfect football weather. It's raining, it's super windy, it's like just cold enough, but it's not too cold, but it's just cold enough where your hands are getting numb after being out for so long. But it's good. It's I hate it, but I love it at the same time. So the fact he's able to do that in those type of conditions, that was perfect for him, and I know he's not going to be the long-term answer here in Chicago. I mean, Carlos Santos isn't going anywhere, but for him to do that for him, it really does revive his career after what was really, really, really rough in San Francisco, somewhere where he was drafted in the 4th round. But yeah, that's it for me for week 6. I really want to hear from anybody that ends up watching this all the way through, what you think about week 6 and what's your thoughts about my thoughts and your opinions and on how the league is going, because again, this is very weird waters to tread. I don't really understand who is the top dogs in this league, and we may not know like who's really about it till the latter weeks, until the the last couple weeks of the season. But we shall see. We shall see going forward. And speaking of we shall see what happens tonight in tonight's game, where the Steelers will be playing the Bengals. This game, it's set to be a hard-fought battle. It's an AFC North game. They're always going to be hard-fought, low scoring, very physical. Both teams are, I know it's weird, but both teams are looking to make a statement here. This is both a statement game for, can the Steelers just continue to route the teams that they should, which they have been doing. And for the Bengals, for me, I think they can still climb back into that playoff contention. I think it's still possible for them. Is it likely to happen? No. But they can still do it. If they win this game against the team that they would do it against, then that would be huge for them. Okay? That would be huge for them, be huge for the Ravens. It just showcases like, hey, this isn't going to be an easy road for the Steelers like everyone thinks it's going to be. And that's really what this game could showcase. And it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's going to probably be under 40 points combined. This is going to be a game where Steelers have to really fight it out and not lose to a team that they should beat. But again, I truly believe the Bengals have a chance here to kind of shift it. They played Green Bay decently well, which is a really good team, which I think is better than the Steelers. But I think Cincinnati could pull something off here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. So, yeah, that's my Week 7 preview for tonight's game specifically. Hopefully, I will hop on a show here next week, and that's what this was for, and I'm glad I was able to still relay my message to you, even if you're still here, shout out to you, because you're truly one of my top supporters. If you are still listening to me right now, I truly commend you, and I cannot show you how much I appreciate you. I'm really happy to see what my page has become. I just hope that I can continue to disseminate information in a journalistic view as much as possible, to get the information out to people in the best possible way that remains little bias and with intellectual thought that actually weighs on not ratings, but, what people actually care about, not stupid punchline engagement farming type of headlines. I don't. That's not my goal. I just hope that I can get the best information out for you guys that is of quality and validated. This is going to be it for this, and if you're still here, if you're still here, you clearly actually enjoy listening to me, and you should definitely check out my show. It's going to be on a different streaming software, but I'm going to promote it on my story on Instagram for sure. So be sure to keep up to date with my page, and you'll be able to see all that come into fruition. Hopefully next Wednesday, next Tuesday, we'll be able to start something, and we'll see from there. Thank you guys for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Hopefully I can see you on the stream. Peace out.